Hello, and welcome to another workshop on Streamer Square. Today, we are going to be talking about something that is super exciting and way more important than a lot of people are giving it credit for right now. We're going to be talking about cybersecurity and what that means for you as a streamer. So, I'm going to be your host today, Wes Sisa. You can find me on Twitter and Twitch as Wes Sisa. I don't do much on either, so, might be a useless follow, but go for it if you want. And I've got an amazing co-host with me today who is an absolute security whiz. I can't wait to pick his brain. Welcome, SagerRage. Sager, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, everyone. I'm SagerRage. I am a field engineer that works for a small IT company in North America. You can only find me on Twitch and Discord because that's how I like it.
It's so fitting for the topic, is it not? The cybersecurity expert that you can't find anywhere. So we're going to be talking about cybersecurity today. I'm super excited for it. And this entire episode is actually sponsored by Surfshark VPN. So Surfshark VPN, I've been using it recently. It's incredible. They've got servers hosted in the British Virgin Islands. They've got an auto kill switch. They've got multi-hop. Do you have any idea what any of that is? No? That's totally fine. Hang tight. We're actually going to be talking about that and so much more about VPNs and all kinds of other services that you can use to protect yourself online and why you want to use those to protect yourself online. So for this show, I'm kind of going to be playing your well-meaning average streamer that thinks that, I've got two-factor authentication on my Twitch. They send me a text message and Google remembers my passwords for me. So I must be safe, right? So I'm going to be asking the questions here, and Sager's going to be filling me in because he is an absolute expert. So what are we going to talk about today, Sager? You sent me this outline. You had all these topics on there, and I feel like I'm probably fine on all of those. What are all those topics? They were...
Well, first we're going to cover browsers, and then we're going to cover search engines, and then VPNs, and password managers, and then we'll tie it all up when we talk about authentication services.
Right. So, I went through that outline. Like browsers, I use Google Chrome. It works. It remembers everything for me. I think I'm fine with that, right?
I mean, Chrome is free, obviously, but Google makes you pay to use their services with your own personal data. So they snoop, spy, and stalk on your entire online presence. So we'll cover that later.
Okay, so maybe not just Google Chrome. So you said search engines, and I just Googled this, and it said I should use Google in the very top result. I said I Googled best search engine, and it said it was Google. So I don't see an issue there either, really.
Yeah, I mean, Google, they track and mine and package every single search you do. So every search, whether it's medical search, a financial search, a personal issue kind of search, Google will feed you biased results that are clearly what you want to see.
Okay, that sounds bad. Okay, so maybe not always Google. Maybe not always Google. What about VPNs? I heard that they move your traffic all over the place, so that's got to slow me down, right? I don't want to lose my bit rate. I'm trying to stream here.
Well, most good VPNs allow for split traffic tunneling, which means you can encrypt your internet traffic in your browser, just your browser, or just one application. And you could leave let's say your OBS live stream unencrypted. So that way you would have a faster speed if you notice it does slow down.
That's so cool. Okay, so that one I can't wait to hear more about. You got no arguments from me there. What about password managers? I shouldn't like I said before, Google remembers all my passwords. Is that not good enough? Is that not secure?
Well, you see, Google now that it does remember passwords, and you're able to generate passwords, which is a great leap forward than they have had before. But by using a third-party password manager, you can ensure your passwords are able to be fetched on every device and be able to be used on every device. Not to mention, as of recently, actually, Chrome does offer password generation, and so that's great. But they're not very forthwith about how they generate your passwords, and so it's best to go elsewhere for that kind of stuff.
Okay. Okay. So, and then the last thing that you said we wanted to talk about today was authentication services. Like, I have two-factor on everything. Like, I have to use my phone with a text message to get into almost anything. Is that not good enough?
Well, I mean, SMS verification is very, very insecure. It's really simple for a hacker or someone to use a SIM swap kind of a technique, but we're going to cover that later as well.
Okay. So you're going to teach us about all these things today, right? You're going to teach us about browsers, about VPNs, about search engines and password managers and authentication services. So let's start like big picture here. What are the key principles of protecting yourself on the internet? Maybe I'm not going to do all of these things as soon as the show ends, but what's
Sure.
like the general idea?
Well, in basic, you really want to keep everything decentralized. So
So like
it's
having a
like,
bunch of different hard drives.
yeah, more or less. Or like, like let's say you had like a bucket, and let's say you had liquid gold in one bucket, and let's say someone stole that one bucket, then everything that was in there is now gone. So you want to be able to segment all your buckets out and have all of your information in different buckets, so that way you can reduce the chances of your data slash, all of your logins being lost, ransomed, or even just taken outright.
So it's almost sounding like the more convenient something is, the more dangerous it might be. So
Yeah.
all of those programs, like I like Google Chrome that remembers everything for me. That's probably like the worst solution.
Yeah. Jeffrey Flower, a technology columnist at the Washington Post, said it best. Having the world's biggest advertising company make the most popular web browser was about as smart as letting kids run a candy shop. Now, Google Chrome, it lets shopping, news, and even government websites quietly tag the browser and lets advertisement and data companies essentially ride shotgun while you browse the web. So Google allows multiple companies to track your activity. So therefore, you really should try to minimize Chrome and Google usage as much as you can. It's kind of hard nowadays, obviously.
So that is that like what cookies are?
Well, you see, every time you go to a website, it remembers what you liked about like all your custom settings, your preferences, your logins. It saves all of that on your computer in the form of a cookie. Um,
Okay. So so if you're telling me that Google is like basically a tracking and ad delivery platform with a web browser attached to it, what are some other
oh yeah.
options? And how and why do other options exist? Like what are the other what can I do other than Google Chrome? It's ubiquitous at this point.
Yeah. Well, I like Firefox. It's been around for a long time, ever since Internet Explorer was a thing. Firefox essentially has been a thing. I think it's been around since 2008 or 2009. I'm having trouble remembering, but it allows for tracking, blocking of tracking, and third-party cookies are also blocked, and crypto mining is also blocked. Um, Trackers refer to cookies, which we talked about, or scripts that
Wait,
would collect your data.
what is what is crypto mining if I'm not doing it myself?
Yeah, right. If you could do it yourself, I've heard there's money to be made. I don't know. But if someone's crypto mining on your computer, that means that the script on their website is actually using your computer's hardware to invisibly mine cryptocurrency in the background while you just stay on the website. And Chrome does not block that stuff by default. It just kind of, you get the best experience by everything is open.
Okay.
And then there's also Mozilla Firefox blocks third-party tracking cookies, which are used by advertisers specifically to track you across multiple websites and then target you with ads based on where you visit, how often you visit, how long you're on that website, what you click through from that website to go to, or where you came from. It's very impressively invasive stuff, so to speak.
Yeah, that doesn't sound good.
Yeah, Firefox has a great data protection policy. They only collect your data for development. All the data is tied to random identifiers, never your name or your account, because I'm sure all of you are aware when you log into Chrome, you see your little icon in the top right, and that shows that you're logged in. So that means everything you do is tied to that account. And Mozilla, they earn money from donations and from sponsored tab tiles. Like when you open a new tab, they have little sponsored stories in there, which you can turn that stuff off. But I always leave it on because, if it's helping the little guy try and I shouldn't say take down Google Chrome, but compete with, I think it's fair to leave the sponsored tabs there. Just,
Yeah, it seems a lot fairer than handing Google Chrome every single bit of my personal information
Yeah.
for getting maybe a couple ads from Firefox. That doesn't sound
Exactly.
like a terrible deal.
Yeah. And obviously, there are some websites that don't always work very well with Firefox. And so it's always good to have a few alternatives, which is why I also recommend having Vivaldi, which is a browser that's based on Chromium, which is a fork of Chrome that was way back when. So it still performs and functions just like Chrome. All of the extensions that you can get on the Chrome Web Store also works with Vivaldi. Vivaldi was actually built by the former CEO of Opera, which was another browser that was trying to be, another alternative browser to Google Chrome. But unfortunately, Opera was purchased in 2017 by a Chinese conglomerate. And as I'm sure most of you are aware, keeping your data away from Chinese and Russian services is kind of the safest way to browse the internet. But
their government basically allows for a lot of tracking of their stuff, right?
oh yeah, like anything that goes through the Chinese and Russian servers are pretty much logged, and it's going to be a while before you can fully convince yourself that your data is not in those servers anymore. So really trying to stay away from those kind of services is definitely best. But Vivaldi also has advertisement and tracker blocking, which is always handy. And you can always turn that stuff off as you need to. It also has the third-party cookie blocking that Firefox has. And then one last thing about Vivaldi is it has a very high level of customization. And that's in terms of keyboard shortcuts and mouse shortcuts. Like I have like 6 buttons on my mouse. I can map each one of those buttons to something in Vivaldi, or a combination of 2 or even up to 3 buttons on the mouse to move something or do something specific with Vivaldi, which is kind of, an interesting kind of a different tactic to treat your browser like a very customizable tool that you use and
Right. For those of us who have like macro pads or weird keyboards like me, that's super cool.
Yeah, exactly. And the only unfortunate thing about Vivaldi is that there is no iOS version at the moment. I've heard that they are trying to build one, but it is supported on every other platform. And Vivaldi's privacy policy states that they only collect anonymized usage data as well, meaning it's never shared with any third parties. It all is just for internal usage and development as well.
I like that part a lot. That last bit about only using your information and randomizing it seems like the crux of how they manage your data and what they keep from you. That just seems like a recurring theme that I like. I like hearing that.
Yeah. And Vivaldi, they only make money off of the the sponsored bookmarks that come with the browser. And I think there's only like 7 or 8 that come with the browser. And so I think on average, the CEO said that they only make roughly $1 per user per year. So they're not in this for the money. They're in this for creating a full, free, open source kind of experience for you, the user.
Well, I mean, that's good to hear. It's, concerning to see how rich Google is, considering I've never given them a dime.
Yeah, right. But another alternative, because you can never have too many browsers on your computer. I think I have 5 or 6, and then I even built one myself just for testing purposes. But another good one that's up and coming is Brave. I'm sure most of you have heard of Brave. Content publishers like journalists, bloggers, vloggers. They depend on advertisements to sustain operations. Brave can change how you support your favorite creators through tipping and other kind of monetary actual like giving to people. And so Brave does support tipping through Twitch and YouTube. And recently they announced that you can tip people through Twitter, which is a very novel, kind of ahead of the game kind of concept, where you directly tip the person's website that you're on. Now, unfortunately, that would require you, the content creator or the publisher, to actually sign up for the Brave network. And by signing up, users can either look at a ad-free experience or like a Brave enhanced ad-free experience. And that's where Brave just shows safe, like non-malicious advertisements that don't steal your data or anything like that. It's just, like the typical ad.
So how would I use this as a content creator? I want to sign up for the Brave network, and then what? And then what do I tell my viewers? How do they support me with this?
If they want to support you through it, they can download Brave and then sign up to start earning what's called BAT currency, the Brave attention token currency. And by watching ads, you get the currency, and you can also insert your own like credit card information, or what was the other one, or like Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies, and then you can use that to fill up your what's called your Brave wallet, and then you use that to directly tip people that you like their content, or you like what they're publishing, you like what they say.
Okay.
It's a novel. It's kind of ahead of its time, kind of a concept, really.
It sounds like it. It's almost hard to wrap my head around. I'm so like inundated and used to just being force-fed ads based on what I've already visited that it's hard to imagine that there's like another model, but it's really kind of inspiring to hear that there is.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so most like default ad experiences online are pretty malicious, and they track a lot about what you're doing, and then they give that information to anyone else that they can to make any kind of amount of money that they can. But Brave does their own non-malicious network of advertisements, which is quite handy. And Brave also will never collect, store, or sell any of your personal data, as in their TOS, they say your data is considered your own personal property, which is a nice way of putting it.
That seems like it should be the norm.
Maybe one day.
Maybe one day. Maybe one day. Now, we actually, before we move on, we have had some really good questions in chat.
Yeah.
And before those people take off or anything, I want to address some of those. So,
of course.
OG Prodigy asks, do you think we should try to get gaming communities off Discord into something like Matrix for better privacy?
I have never heard of the Matrix gaming community. I'll have to look into that.
Okay. Do you think that Discord is pretty secure? I thought I always heard good security things about them.
Well, I think Discord is quite secure, especially with their authentication services and your two-factor authentications to log in. And I've never had any issues with Discord so far. I mean, they've been pretty forthwith. Anytime I've emailed them for support, they email me back right away too, which is another huge bonus, is when a company emails you back and you have that 24/7 actual like support where you can rely on them.
I haven't really looked much into Discord, and I've never even heard of Matrix, but maybe that's something we can revisit at a later date, look into some of those types of services.
Definitely.
Kitty asks, how's DuckDuckGo as a browser? We're actually going to be talking about that in a little bit, so hang tight. We will get to that. Claudia Cool asks, can I trust my iPhone with my passwords? That's a good one I don't know the answer to.
That is a good one, because Apple is actually one of the they are on the forefront of really keeping your user data safe. However, if you ever go from, like, let's say your iPhone and you're trying to use like your Windows computer and you're trying to get the password, you'd have to pull it up on your phone, look at it, read it, and then type it in on your browser on your Windows desktop. So that's why I recommend doing the password managers, which we'll talk about, because that way you have the cross-device functionality that saves you a lot of time, and it's all backed up to the cloud, which I believe Apple does as well with the iPhone. But it's always good to have more than one place where your passwords are saved, essentially.
Right. And in a follow-up question, Claudio also asks, so is Safari as bad as Chrome?
Safari is not as bad as Chrome because Safari and Apple, as the parent company, they don't try to really make that much money off of you and off of the ads because Apple products are pretty expensive as is. So you're kind of already paying a premium up front to get that premium service from Apple. So it's hard to really to say that Apple is as bad or worse than Google, because Apple is not. In terms of privacy, they're actually really good, but it's just best to always hedge your bets and not use only one platform where all of your data is, just to keep yourself safe on the internet.
That makes sense. Okay, that was it for questions for now. We're going to be opening up for questions later. We will have like a couple sections where we actually stop and ask for questions. Just, you don't have to hold them until then, though. We're reading the chat as well. If you have questions, keep them coming. We're going to try and get through all of our stuff and get to all the questions that you have in chat. So again, just keep them on coming. We'll keep answering them.
And let's see. Oh, yeah. Someone mentioned DuckDuckGo. We were going to talk about search engine usage and internet browser usage next.
Yeah.
So yeah, data leaks are becoming a very, very common occurrence. I have signed up for a couple services where I get an email anytime a major company has a breach or a hack or a leak, and it's almost daily that I get an email about some company somewhere in the U.S. is having a breach or a leak. So by keeping your cookies to a minimum on your browser, it requires you to re-log in every time you visit the website, which is kind of an inconvenience, but it provides the most secure and private web browsing experience. You'll have to see your individual browsers for instructions on how to do this, because there's a bunch of different browsers out there now. But personally, for search engine usage and to keep my cookies to a minimum, I like to use DuckDuckGo. And I have used DuckDuckGo for quite a while. They use all privacy-based searches. All the searches are based on...
What does a privacy-based search even mean?
I'm glad you asked, because I had to look it up too. I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. What would that entail?
Right.
A privacy-based search means that the search is based on the raw keywords and not on, let's say, your browsing on the website habits that Chrome and Google would use. So whenever you search for something in Google, or you Google something, Google knows the last, let's say 15 years of what you've been Googling. They know what you're going to be looking into. And so if it's something out of the norm, they'll probably feed you something a little more biased and not exactly raw, so to speak. And so an unbiased search really lends to a more open internet, in my opinion, because then you're not just stuck in the same bubble of the same content over and over.
Right. So like if I search for a bunch of politics stuff. So is it just going to keep on feeding me more stuff that I'm probably going to agree with and click through on because Google Chrome knows my last 1,000 searches?
Yeah, definitely. They definitely would. Not to mention, not just your searches, but if you're using Chrome as well, and you're using any kind of Google service, and you go to, like, let's say, right-leaning websites or left-leaning websites more frequently than the other side of the spectrum, you definitely get fed that filter bubble where you only get to see and read one side of the argument ever.
So that's the benefit of privacy-based searches, is that it's just taking my search for just a single search, and not a search from West CISA, which also means that,
That's right. Yeah, it does. Okay. And by using the pure raw keywords, sometimes it requires a bit more, like you have to put more words in when you're searching, or be more specific when you're searching, or you have to, actually scroll to the bottom and go to the next page. And so sometimes it requires a little bit more work, but usually you get, unfiltered results that way. Plus, you still have the same search tools that Google has, where you can search by, content from the past year. All the other stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do these other places make money? Because we know Google Chrome Google can't even count all the money that they're making off of us. So what are these other browsers doing to even keep up or compete, so to speak?
Yeah. Well, Firefox, like I did say, they do rely on donations and the sponsored new tab tiles thing, which you can turn off. In Vivaldi, they also rely on the click throughs when you browse like shopping websites, and same thing with DuckDuckGo. Anytime you go to eBay or Amazon, it'll tack on its own like what's the word, like a
Like a
referral
referral.
code. Yeah, like a referral code to be loose about it, and so it kind of so it adds a commission to DuckDuckGo when the end user buys something from eBay or Amazon, and no information is being exchanged between DuckDuckGo and any websites you do shop. It keeps everything anonymous between the services.
So it's more of a finder's fee than a data collection fee or
Yeah,
kind of thing. It's not about the actual purchase. It's about you brought us a purchase, not look at this
precisely.
person that you brought us.
Yeah, and then the commission that they get is it's nominal in terms of what you bought. I mean, it's
Oh,
like a
I'm sure.
percentage
Yeah.
of a percentage. I'm not even sure what the exact number is, but um, DuckDuckGo, they also donate some of that money to organizations that support the voice of consumers, and also for regulatory discussions about online privacy around the world. So not just North America or Europe, but they do it all over the world to make sure that that they keep end users' rights like on the forefront, and people still talk about online privacy because it's becoming a thing where people don't want to talk about it, as in something we just don't talk about because we don't have time to talk about it and it's uncomfortable to talk about.
Well, it's one of those things that comes up whenever someone says like, "Oh, this bill is about to pass and it would change the internet forever," and we talk about it for like 2 months, and then something way more nefarious and gross happens 2 months after that, and we don't even bat an eye at it. It's very
Yeah.
interesting, but the fight for internet privacy is not over by any means. We're probably losing, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, and the EU has had a great track record of keeping end users' rights on the forefront. But in the past few months, there's been bills and advocacy groups that are trying to essentially decommission all of the end user rights that have been built up over all these years because it favors business, obviously, to not have any walls or anything in the way of consumers for businesses to track and use you. So, for those of you in the EU, just keep that in mind. I've been reading about that recently in the past month or so, and so they're using the same tactic as some of the politicians here in the U.S. So, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, I guess.
Well, I suppose so. What else? What else in browsers do we need to pay attention to? I feel like I got a couple good options now. I feel like I'm ready to go back and diversify my browser options a bit.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked because obviously every browser you can get extensions now, and extensions, while they are great, most of them collect your data. It's like as soon as you open them, there's that little prompt that pops up and says, do you give permission to? And then most people don't even read the last part. They just say yes, just get out of the way, or they hit the X and then it just goes away until the next time, and then they hit yes because it popped up twice. But many of the shopping and customization extensions are notorious for logging and tracking for your data to be sold for profit. So, the big ones like Honey and all those other kind of shopping ones where it tells you like this is a great deal. Like they are harvesting everything that you have been browsing and selling it as you're using the shopping extensions. So it's kind of sketchy, obviously. You really
Yeah.
want to I try to use as few extensions as possible. I also have various browsers for various purposes. So if I am shopping, and I do want to see the like historical price of an item, for instance, kind of like what Honey does with their extension usage. There's other websites that do the same thing, and you can look them up. And I try to keep all of my shopping in one browser, and I'll keep all of my business stuff in another browser, and then I'll keep all my personal stuff in another browser. So I don't mix my personal and my shopping and my business. I try to decentralize the recurring theme here. I try and decentralize everything so that way it's in its own little bucket, so to speak. And then I can go in and clear the cache and cookies after every session, which is what I recommend. So every time I close the browser, it clears all of my cookies, which means, every time I open it, I have to relog into every website. It's a minor inconvenience to make sure that I'm getting the most private and secure experience on the internet.
And a lot of browsers, if I'm not mistaken, I think I've seen that option in the settings, right? You can choose what to clear upon closing. So a lot of browsers, that's not a whole lot extra to do. It's just turn it on, and then whenever you close it, you're saving yourself that much more risk of your passwords and everything being compromised.
Yeah, and like Vivaldi, I think you can select just third-party cookies are closed when you close your browser, which is a great one to start with. So that way you can kind of slowly wean yourself off from always having yourself logged in, which is what I, have been recommending to like friends and family, because with Vivaldi, you close it, the advertising cookies are the ones that are cleared every time. But then your personal ones stay. And so I recommend once a week, once a month, going through and physically clearing them just to get in a good habit. And that once you're used to that kind of format, then you can do the full transition.
So you've mentioned those phrases a couple times, and I just want to make sure I'm understanding them correctly. A personal cookie is going to be something that stores like the preferences for what I look at on Reddit or my login information. And then the third-party cookies, those are more like the tracking, the advertising.
Yeah, the third-party cookies are the ones that are used by advertisers to track you across websites, and so they literally it's like they're whispering to each other to follow you through the other websites that you visit. And the personal cookies, it would be like better Twitch TV, like all of the settings you have set. It would, in theory, clear all those out. And also with your extension usage, it would clear all those out as well. Like it would clear all of your personal preferences for, let's say, Twitch, if you cleared it for, a specific browser. I keep all of my Twitch usage in one browser, and I clear it like once a month because it's not too inconvenient then.
Right. I was gonna ask how you mod with BTTV if you have to set all the, because BTTV you can upload your settings or whatever, but that's not like an easy one. So for a streamer who uses a lot of Twitch, you would say keep your Twitch usage in one browser. See, that's so smart. You keep your Twitch usage in a single browser. You don't have to clear the cookies every time because you're just using it for Twitch. That makes so much sense. I love it.
Yeah. And then not to mention, obviously, with better Twitch TV and all the other kind of Twitch-related extensions, making backups is super important. And putting those backups somewhere, especially if you're a streamer, keeping it somewhere that's not on your computer, like on a flash drive, keeping all of your essential OBS files off of your computer as well, just in case, kind of a thing.
Right.
I think next we were gonna open it up for any other questions, if anybody had any, or Wes, if you had any other questions as well.
Let's see if I don't think we got any more from chat yet. Let me just double check that I didn't miss anyone. We did get another interesting one from Claudia Cool asking, is it possible to erase your digital footprint completely? Which I know you'll need a second for. And I know we were going to think about talking about this, but which email do you use or suggest?
Obviously, it is hard to. Well, I should address the first question. It is possible to erase your digital footprint, but it's also extremely difficult to erase your digital footprint completely. Luckily, if you use a VPN, it really does help mitigate the risk. And by having a VPN, it actually makes your digital footprint a little more scattered. So if your ISP or if like somebody else was trying to look at your information, it would look more jumbled up and encrypted. So it'd be almost impossible for them to really get a good sense or a good portfolio, if you will, on you. Also, I do have a Gmail. Unfortunately, in 2020, I feel like it's hard to not have a Gmail. But I prefer to use Proton Mail, which is a great service that there is a limit on how many emails you can send, but You can pay for unlimited emails, and it's an end-to-end encryption, so it works best when the other party or the other person is also using Proton Mail, which is kind of difficult. But it's always good to have more than one email service because, like everything in life, you really want to decentralize everything that you're using. So email services, everything really. And I mean, I will admit I have multiple Gmails as well. I mean, we all I wasn't aware of this risk back when I signed up when I was younger, and now I am, and now it's harder to scrub what's there, and it's you can still mitigate your risk going forward by putting your fingers in other services, but you gotta do the work, unfortunately.
It got its hooks in us, like Facebook.
That's right.
It's like it did all the right things to make itself a necessary service, so that it felt like everybody had to have it. And now it is so hard to get every single one of those little hooks out. So I like what you said there about mitigating its use going forward. Like, I unfortunately still use Facebook, but I also no longer even think about the option of login with Facebook. That's just an absolute no-no for me. I'm trying to keep those little hooks out. So I like that notion, or that mindset of just mitigating going forward, because we've all signed up for and maybe even still use stuff that kind of sucks.
Yeah, this is probably a good time to talk about that single sign-in button as well. The one where it says sign in or continue with Google or continue with Facebook, as if you signed up before, and maybe you have, maybe you haven't. But the continue with Facebook button, I have many, many issues with, because Facebook cannot be trusted. So if you can, please do not push that continue with Facebook or sign in with Facebook or sign in with Google button. You really got to stay away from that. And if you use Yahoo Mail, I'm just going to say right now, you really need to jump ship and either resort back to letters or just stop contacting people, because Yahoo Mail has been hacked, I think 2 or 3 times, and it is my grandfather still uses it, and I have to help him with his computer about 3 times a year because of it. So it's just one of those things, he doesn't want to change, so I get to provide a free service for family. So yep.
Life of an IT person.
That's right.
Well, I haven't seen any more. Oh, actually, no, this is a good one from Salty while we're still on browsers. Why is incognito mode not an effective measure of protecting your information online?
Ooh, yeah. Incognito mode. It actually depends which browser you use, because Chrome's incognito definitely does not protect you whatsoever. Why would they protect you when they can still make money off of you?
That's basically just like a don't save my history mode, right? Like, is it doing anything other than that, really?
Nope. All it is just not tracking your history. And some website or some browsers, like Brave, for example, if you try to open like a private window, essentially incognito, it actually uses Tor networks to keep your browsing history hidden from your ISP, and it keeps your IP address hidden from the sites you visit as well. So by using the Tor network, which is a anonymous relay service that people have all over the world. So by using Brave, and you want to open a link privately, it actually opens it in a way where it blocks websites from seeing your IP, seeing where you're from, and it also blocks your ISP from seeing where you're going and how long you've been there.
That's so cool. That's so cool. Okay, so it definitely depends. I had no idea that it used Tor, or that any browsers switched to using Tor networks for an incognito mode. That's incredible. If we want to protect it a little bit more, we can use what's the next thing on the list here? Is VPN services?
Oh yeah. Okay. Some VPN stuff. Understanding a VPN is a little more confusing, but we're going to do our best here. As you see on the graphic, the bottom is if you don't have a VPN, which is how most people use the internet, where the device is unencrypted and talks to your ISP, and then your ISP using your connection is unencrypting your data to the internet. So everything's unencrypted. Everything is just open, like the wild, wild west, like it has been for 30 years essentially. But with a VPN, it actually encrypts your traffic from the point that your traffic goes into the internet. It is encrypted, so your ISP has no idea where it's going. And then once your traffic is leaving the VPN server and gets to the website, then it stays there. So your ISP has no idea where your traffic is going.
Okay. So
Yeah.
what's like an analogy for this? Like if I were to, send like a letter that blatantly said where I was going and what I wanted back, and then what would a VPN be? That'd be like sending a secret code that says only give this to Julia, and then once, or something like that. I'm trying to like wrap my head around it.
Well, a good example I saw was it's like if you pull your car out of your driveway, someone can follow you and see where you go, how long you're at that destination, and even when you return home. In theory, they would even be able to look in your windows when you're parked and, let's say, at a location, and learn more information about you and see what you're doing and maybe why you're there at that destination as well. But with a VPN, it's more or less like driving into a closed parking garage, switching cars, and then driving out of the parking garage. So if somebody was following you, they wouldn't really know where to look, who you are. But in a technical sense, they would only see like an encrypted level of information. It's very hard for ISPs to really understand where your traffic is going. And that all depends on a good VPN, obviously. There are plenty of bad and free VPNs out there that do absolutely nothing. And this whole ISP having your data thing, it didn't used to be a scary bad thing, but only recently, as of 2017, it's now legal for your ISP to sell the customer's data to third-party vendors to, make more money off of us.
Cool.
So,
and what is it? 6 or 9 months that ISPs are allowed to hold your data?
I am not sure about the exact amount of months on that.
I forget the exact amount too, but they hold that data
it's so long. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And if you think about every device in your house, every single device going somewhere, like your Roku, your Fire TV, your Apple TV, your tablet, your printer, sometimes the HP printers, they talk out to HP servers and, communicate whether it needs toner, whether it needs supplies, and it'll talk back to HP servers. And so obviously, yeah, your ISP can log a lot of information on you.
Of course, Morag points out a great point. We should specify that the laws that we're talking about currently pertaining to ISPs to sell their data and ISPs being able to hold onto that data for 6 or 9 months, whatever it is. This is all in regards to the USA. So we're talking about the United States here. Just to clarify, we can't say anything. We don't know laws outside of this country. I hardly know the laws inside this country. So, but yeah, just a disclaimer. Thank you, Morag.
Yeah, and the laws are ever changing as well. So they are really trying to change things in the EU to reflect things here in the US. So unfortunately, that is a dangerous trend where most digital online privacy things are slowly getting to the point where they're watching what the US does, and then, tries to implement that. Yeah, because that's best for big business. And unfortunately, big business doesn't mean best for your safety.
Right.
But I will say VPNs, they don't protect against ransomware or phishing attacks, but it does protect you against mass data collection and the vacuuming up of your user data as well.
Okay, so I know what phishing is. That's when someone tries to get you to enter your password on a website. So it would make sense that doesn't, if someone tricks me into going into a website and I type my password in there because it looks like a legit login from my email company or whatever, I understand it can't protect me from that. I'm sending that information out, but it can't protect you from ransomware either. Now, that's normally something you'd have to download, right? So you can still download viruses on a VPN. It's not an antivirus, right?
Yeah, definitely. It is not an
Okay.
antivirus. And yeah, you still have the risk of going to, let's say, google.com, but the L and the E are switched and you don't notice it because why would you look in the address bar? It just takes you there and it looks similar. And so they're trying to fish you for more information. So you really got to pay attention to URLs and to what you're downloading as well. Yes.
That's awesome. Okay. So when I'm looking for a VPN, what kind of things am I looking for?
Yeah. Most important things are speed, price, the number of servers that a VPN has, and the diversity of servers, and also where they're located. That's a big one. According to a recent security.org research team, the average U.S. consumer, if they were going to pay for a VPN, which I recommend because the free VPNs do next to nothing really for you. They could just sell your information anyways. They have no incentive to really keep you safe. So the average consumer expects to pay between $5 and $10 a month. And also, the location of where the actual service is located it makes a huge difference. Because if the VPN service is hosted here in the United States, they have to comply with federal laws. So they have to keep logs. And if the government ever wants to, step in and ask for something, that company legally has to do it here in the United States.
Okay, so it's like if my my local police department, my small city police department wanted to get information from my ISP, they're a lot more likely to get that information than like trying to subpoena an entire company that's based in the British Virgin Islands or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay,
and so
that's huge.
Yeah, and I actually have had personal experience with a VPN and how it can actually protect you. Back in college, I was doing an experiment of sorts to see if I could harvest is probably a good word. Harvest people's user credentials, usernames, passwords, credit card numbers. And so I turned my phone into its own little Wi-Fi hotspot, and I was able to, essentially, I won't get into the details, but I was able to harvest a bunch of data because people were unwillingly just connecting to a Wi-Fi that looks like the one that I was at. Now, if someone had a VPN and they connected to that same Wi-Fi, I would not have been able to see any of the traffic or collect any of the usernames, passwords, credit card numbers, very sensitive information. I would not have been able to collect that because it would have been encrypted from the point where it entered, let's say, the router, and then where it went on the internet. So I would have not been able to see any of the raw text that someone would have been using. So that's why I personally highly recommend a VPN, because I personally have been able to steal people's stuff and, been able to be on the end of ruining someone's life. I didn't want to do that, obviously, so I just took the information and deleted it. And to the best of my knowledge, I tried to warn users at the location I was at that, you shouldn't hop on any public Wi-Fi that you can. So.
Yeah, I'm getting the idea of public Wi-Fi without a VPN is a big risk.
Extremely huge risk. But the show today is sponsored by Surfshark. And so we're going to talk about some of their great features that they have. I've been testing it for the past couple of weeks. It is phenomenal. Most VPN services, not Surfshark, most of them, you only get like a limited number of devices or unsafe location hosting, logging policies, limited or no split tunneling, no ad tracking, or no ad or tracker blocking, and less features on mobile platforms as well, which is kind of annoying if you have multiple devices like everyone does nowadays.
Right. So you can put Surfshark on like all your stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and so most services charge more money for less features as well. But Surfshark is extremely easy to use. I set it up in, I think, 5 minutes, and I set it up on my wife's phone in like 60 seconds. It was super easy. Surfshark has 1,700 servers in 63 countries. It allows for unlimited devices. So like I said, I signed myself up and my wife up, and I'm going to put it on our Fire TV, on our Roku, all of our devices, because it does support every device, including Xboxes, PlayStations, Mac OS, iOS, Android, Apple TVs too, if you're into that sort of thing. And then
Some
obviously all the browser extensions too.
some VPNs don't even have like an iOS version yet, and you
Yeah,
put this
right.
on your Fire TV. Like that's
Yeah,
so cool.
yeah, right.
I
So,
actually did just
uh-huh.
post a link in the chat as well. We are sponsored by Surfshark today, but we also have an incredible deal from Surfshark today. So if you go through that link, you can get 83% off and 3 months free. If you work it out, it comes out to like, I don't know, what is it? A couple, it's $2-3 a month or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's $2.21 a month.
Yeah, it's an
Yeah,
incredible deal. Definitely check out that link if you're looking for a VPN. But I had to throw that in there. You go ahead. Tell me
oh
all
yeah,
the other good reasons because I know you're just
yeah.
getting started.
Yeah, their servers are hosted in the British Virgin Islands, so there's no data protection laws, which is a good thing, meaning that they don't log your policies or they don't log what you're doing, so they have no extradition for your data. So if the U.S. government, demanded data from Surfshark, they would be able to essentially just tell them we don't have any data on that user. Sorry. Surfshark also has a built-in ad blocker, which is something I've never even heard of a VPN offering until I started looking more into Surfshark. And that works for desktops and mobile devices. It has a auto kill switch, so whenever your connection drops from the VPN, it disconnects your entire internet connection, so it prevents leaking of any kind of information that you are doing. And the next part,
Oh, so like that's something you can
uh-huh,
turn on.
yeah,
Like I have like a work VPN, and if that cuts out, I just go back to using my regular internet. And there's been times that I've not noticed that, where I'm all of a sudden
yeah,
I'm using my regular internet again. But you can
yeah.
tick a box or something and say, if I lose internet, don't keep doing what I'm doing.
Exactly. Exactly. So it keeps you safe the whole time, and especially if your internet drops out or if you have sketchy internet, like you're on your mobile device and you're using, your mobile data. Obviously, you're hitting different towers to get different connections, and so having that on is it's a huge deal.
I
Um,
I've been using Surfshark for weeks now, and like I love that it's fast and it's super easy to install and use. But
mhm.
like I have not I don't think I've looked into the extra settings at all. I'm just
Yeah,
like, oh yeah, connect to that server, press the
yeah,
button, I'm connected, and I'm just like, okay, go on about my day. But I haven't really looked into all this cool stuff. Okay, what's next?
yeah. Well, I will say the ad blocker on the mobile device too. It also blocks like in-app advertisements as well. And so if you want, you can also whitelist websites from the mobile app itself. So you can, if you have any issues with compatibility, you can whitelist a website, and it's seriously super easy.
This is
Um,
super important. If I put this on my parents' phone, do you think they can watch YouTube without getting ads?
ooh,
I'm
I want to
testing
say
that tonight.
I
I'm
want to
so
say yes, but
this could
yeah,
be a game changer.
yeah. But they also have a what's called a multi-hop mode, which I have also never heard of this before, which is a double VPN service. So you connect to a server, a VPN server, and then you connect to a secondary server. So your connection is going through two VPN servers to keep you doubly safe. It's I have never heard of that feature, but I have been using it, and my speed has not been, you know, bad at all. It's been like marginally worse, but like not even that bad really, which is pretty great considering I'm going through two VPN servers to keep myself doubly safe.
Yeah.
Um, and then they have what's called camouflage mode, where it encrypts your traffic to look like regular traffic. That's if you're using your device in like a corporate enterprise environment. Um, so that way your traffic looks like regular internet. Um, but yeah, with Surfshark, you can overcome location-based price discrimination for plane tickets, car rentals, and I've actually used this myself. Where trying to buy tickets last year, plane tickets, I was able to use a VPN and see multiple different, prices for car rentals and flights and hotels too. And so you just keep hopping around until you find the lowest price, it's like a game, except you're saving money. So it's great.
I've also heard there's some interesting things you can do with regional time zones, but you need to be very clear on your terms of service.
Yeah, exactly. So definitely know your terms of service and what you should be doing in the country where you are, for what you're doing, for what your plan is for that actual data. Go ahead.
I'm seeing here Fire TV, Apple TV, Xbox, PlayStation, Firefox, Linux. So it's also got extensions for each of those different browsers.
Oh yeah, and so I tested out by using the VPN on the Windows desktop, and then using the Surfshark VPN within the Firefox browser, and then I used a different VPN server in my Vivaldi browser. So I was trying to see if I could see any data or speed loss. Between, and there was next to no speed loss from doing a triple VPN connection from one computer, because you're able to do it within each browser and on each platform as well.
That's awesome. That helps answer Claudia Cool's question in chat. Does it really slow down your internet too much? I am not nearly as tech savvy as Sager, so I was not running it through any of the tests that he was. I did one test, and that was a speed test, and I lost less than 1% of my total speed. And I was like, okay, Surfshark works for me. The privacy data sites say that it's a good service. Like, that was literally as far as I looked into it. Sager's done all this research.
Yeah, obviously it depends where you connect. If I'm here in the US and I'm trying to connect somewhere in Australia or maybe somewhere else, like, you probably see mildly slower, but definitely not as slow as you would think. As traditional VPNs go, it's definitely not slow.
Awesome. What are RAM only servers?
Oh yeah, glad you asked. Most VPN servers, they load your data on the actual hard drives and keep your data stored locally for the time being that hard drive is turned on. So by putting the server in RAM storage, which is what Surfshark does, they host it exclusively in the RAM. So then whenever they power the server down, it wipes everything and wipes all of the volatile memory and all of the usage that has been done on that actual server. So there's nothing stored. There's nothing, there's no remnants of data like there would be with a hard drive.
Right. Yeah. No. It's exactly like it sounds. It's RAM random access memory and not an actual hard drive. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So again, you have one more point on there before we plug again.
Yeah, there is 24/7 live customer support that has extremely fast response times. I actually wanted to check this for myself because I was reading about it. And so I went to Surfshark's website and I started asking them dumb questions, and they were responsive within like 1 minute, less than 60 seconds. They were responding to my questions, and I tried it at like 3 a.m. just to see. I was just curious. Maybe they're asleep. Maybe they're asleep, is what I thought. But no, they were at the helm, just right there, ready to answer any questions I had, and they were willing to give me guides too on how to do anything. I was like, hey, I wanted to use it on my certain device. I don't know how to set it up, and then they sent me an actual guide on how to do that. So it's extremely user friendly as well.
That's awesome. Honestly, that's always going to be one of the top priorities for me is customer support. So I just posted again. We've got a discount code that you can use. Go ahead, click that link in chat if you're interested in Surfshark VPN. I can personally vouch for it. Sager's vouching for it. You can check those. What is it? It's like that one privacy guy.
Yeah.
Do your independent research. I wouldn't be telling you to buy something that I wouldn't buy myself. And you can get 83% off and 3 months free with the code in chat. So please, I urge you to check it out. If you are thinking about switching VPNs, it's a great deal. If you don't have a VPN at all, it's a super easy starting point too. Despite on top of being one of the better ones, it's also like took me, 3 minutes to get up and going on it. It's super easy.
Yeah, and I've used two other paid VPN services. None of them have been as easy as this one was to set up and also to use. Like, and they didn't have as many features, and I was paying like twice the amount that this one was. So I was
Yeah.
a little upset how great this one was after the fact. But I'm glad I have it now. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, yeah. So we're gonna keep moving here because we've been running a little bit longer than I think we wanted to for how far we've gotten. But
Mhm.
keep those questions rolling in. We are looking at the chat. If you have a question, I'll try and pull it out, especially if it looks like something that we're talking about. And we're just gonna get right into what was next on the outline. I think we got
Yeah,
password managers.
heck yeah, we do. So yeah, we're going to talk about third-party password managers. For example, Bitwarden, LastPass, and Dashlane. The first one, Bitwarden, is the only one I can honestly recommend using. It is free and open source, therefore the code is reviewed and checked for security on a regular basis. LastPass, unfortunately, was exploited in 2016, which was the last time I used LastPass, and also last year, 2019. So definitely don't use a service that has been exploited or breached or hacked before. And then in regards to Dashlane, there's a similar situation where once a user updates information in the Dashlane database, it does expose the entire database in memory. So if somebody is lurking in the shadows in your computer, they could definitely get your entire password vault if you were using Dashlane in that instance. But Bitwarden uses strong end-to-end AES 256 bit encryption, essentially the latest and greatest encryption algorithms and methods. They also have mobile apps for iOS and Android. And Bitwarden allows you to import all of the passwords from whatever browser you're using, whether that's iOS and you're using Safari on there or Chrome. You can just import everything, which I have done for myself and for my wife, and it has been wonderful. So now,
That is the best news to hear because that is the one thing that's kept me from even like starting to look at a better password manager. Is I'm just like,
yeah,
I have all these saved already. I don't want to switch everything over. A lot of these are like super long, complex passwords now, so
yeah,
I didn't want to do all that. That's amazing to hear.
yeah. And I mean, you can use a two-step authenticator with Bitwarden as well. I also use my fingerprint, so you can set biometrics to unlock it on your phone. Because obviously, with your password vault on your phone and you're out and about, let's say you lose your phone, you don't want someone to just be able to get into your password vault right away. You got to set the biometric locks for as much as you can on phones nowadays. It does allow, Bitwarden does, it allows for custom password generation. So you can generate passwords, I think up to like 70 something characters if you wanted to, or you can use, instead of a password, you can use passphrases, where it takes multiple words and you can use like up to 12 words as your password, which is kind of a new, different kind of, tactic, because no one would be able to randomly guess 12 random words either.
Right.
And so I prefer 12 plus digits with upper and lowercase numbers and special characters, because once you hit like the 12 character mark, you really make it difficult for someone to get into your password and get into your account and your credentials. And obviously, before I had a password vault, I was never generating passwords. So I had the same 6 passwords for everything. And you really should not be browsing the internet like that, because back in, I think, 2008, I had my Gmail hacked because I was using the same password everywhere. And so once that happened, I really started to become more involved with cybersecurity and wanted to keep myself safe. And there's nothing worse than data theft, especially when it happens with a service that you know the password to. And so you can't blame anyone else but your own self at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had it happen a couple times.
Yeah. And
Nothing
so,
major, thankfully.
well, that's good. Luckily, with Bitwarden, you can share passwords as well with like a collection service. That's what they call them, is collections. And so my wife and I, we have shared a shared collection where all of our utilities logins are. So, in case one of us is unavailable or, God forbid, something bad happens, we're both still able to, pay bills and pay utilities and make life still, as convenient as it can be.
That seems very useful.
It is, especially with a corporate environment. You can set up the collections for, a very like, let's say the sales department has their own collection of passwords that they need, or something like that. But for like streamers and for your support staff, it'd be nice to have a collection with your support staff, like your moderators or your
Right.
community manager, or anything else like that too. It's really helpful for sharing passwords.
Well, and as a streamer, that would be so helpful to be able to be like, oh, I need to share the password to get into the bot to all
Yeah.
my moderators and my community manager. And
Yep.
I feel comfortable doing that because I know that they have Bitwarden.
Exactly.
Which is like, that's half of the concern when you are when you're using shared logins for things that you might need to, like
Yeah.
a bot for your stream. The half the concern is like, yeah, I trust this person. Do I trust how they handle their passwords? I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
you have no idea what happens once you send that password in a DM to them.
Exactly. And that's the other thing. Posting it in plain text like that, never a good idea either, because you never know where you could accidentally post it somewhere else either. Another good thing is to check your master password, and you can check your email at Have I Been Pwned, the silliest named website with the most amazing concept. I check my email address from time to time, but I definitely check my master password frequently, just to make sure that I'm not, exposed. Or, I have a pretty long master password, and my wife uses like a 30-something character password for hers, so I don't foresee hers or myself having an issue like that. But in the past, I've definitely, I have some logs with Have I Been Pwned from the past, and it's a mark of shame, but you have to move on and you have to secure yourself when you see it.
That's one of those things that, like, it's daunting to even go put my email address in there. I'm like, I don't want to know, but you got to do it. You have to do it. And
Yep.
you just have to deal with whatever it is. If something's been compromised, you got to do whatever you can. It's way better to know that. But I know that anxiety of being like, I don't even want to check. Like, just don't.
Yeah. So we are going to move next to authenticators real quick. As you pointed out, Wes, having SMS authentication is convenient. Why wouldn't you use it? But there's been a lot of social engineering and phishing, so to speak, where someone, if they know your phone number and they have access to your personal information, like the last four of your social, or where you live, that's a big one. Where if someone calls your phone company and they say, I'm with so and so, and this is their address and this is their social numbers, we need to change where their phone SIM card is. So then they essentially swap the SIM card associated with your phone number to a SIM card that they have. So now they have your phone number. A very famous example of this was Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey was a victim of this. Somebody acted like they were calling on behalf of their client, Jack Dorsey. And he had his Twitter account hacked, and they were, tweeting out from him, the CEO of Twitter.
That's a bad look, dude.
Yeah, so you really got to stay away from SMS authentication, because it is super easy for hackers to steal your phone number, especially because if you have a really catchy, fancy, short Twitter handle, usually less than 4 words is usually what they're after. They can easily get right in and then sell your username on the black market, and it's a pretty interesting concept that we're now selling short Twitter handles. But
what a time to be alive.
What a time indeed.
Oof.
But this is where I recommend using Authy by Twilio. In years past, I used to use Google Authenticator. Unfortunately, it used to be tied directly to your phone. So if you lost your phone, you would be locked out of all of your accounts until you were able to contact the companies of where you had your logins. Now, I think Google Authenticator ties it to your actual Google account, but you don't want everything. You don't want all of your eggs in one basket. So don't use Google Authenticator if you can. Try and get rid of it. Microsoft has an authenticator as well, but They are not transparent on how they create the keys, which is very important in a cybersecurity world. People want to see how the keys are created, how the authentication is created in general. And obviously, LastPass has a authenticator as well, but LastPass has had 2 data breaches in recent history, so obviously do not use them as much as you can. But yeah, Authy from Twilio is the most secure that I have found, and is the most reputable company that has helped create infrastructure for places like Uber to keep their drivers safe in private.
Oh,
Yeah,
which
and
is it. If it wasn't working, you'd hear about it.
exactly. And Box Cloud Storage, which is similar to Dropbox in that sense, but Twilio is a very reputable company, and so they've created Authy as a free tool for everyone to use. It doesn't cost anything, and it's all fully backed up to the cloud, and you're able to access your 2FA codes from your desktop or your phone. So it's really nice when you're on desktop to be able to just copy and paste the actual code. You don't have to pull your phone out, log into your phone every time.
I didn't know you could do that, and I have Authy.
Oh, it's slick. And so then you just hit that little copy button, and then it'll ask you for your master password or your PIN every so often just to make sure you are you, which is handy. But yeah, Authy has better security with more advanced cryptographic algorithms. And then obviously on your phone, you can use a biometric lock and lock the actual Authy program if you want, which is something I highly recommend for all of your programs and all of your, very sensitive tools like your password vaults and your authenticators and any email services that you use, any banking and stuff. Definitely try and put any kind of biometric locks on everything as much as you can.
So yeah, I see you're a big fan of biometric locks. So obviously it's going to be harder to get into a phone with a biometric lock than it is going to be like a 4-digit PIN. But
yeah,
are you pretty happy and pretty like the CSI scene where they put a piece of tape on there and then that's not that common?
No.
Okay, good.
And I think for most phones too, it would not work in that sense. I mean, maybe I'll try that after the stream just just for science, because I'm kind of curious now. I never even thought of that. But I'm not a big fan of the face biometrics because someone can have the same facial bone structure as you and it still works, but they don't have the same fingerprint as you. Well, I would hope not.
I'd hope not. But yeah, my brother can open my phone with facial recognition.
Yeah, see, that's exactly. And that's the point about getting an authenticator as well, is once you get it, you need to disable SMS authentication everywhere. Otherwise, it defeats the entire purpose. Because most services, you sign up for your 2FA with your authenticator, and then you forget to go back and disable SMS. And I've had friends where they still get hacked by people because they leave the SMS on and then their phone number gets stolen. And then
right, because if your SMS is on, then it's going to say, what's your Authy code? And you're going to say, I don't have that. And it's going to say, okay, can we text you instead? So you actually do have to disable it. It's not just an added layer. It's an added layer of insecurity.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, because once you get the authenticator, you have to disable SMS because it is the most insecure way. It's better than nothing, but in 2020, you need something that's better than just above, better than nothing.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yes. So I want to bring us back to the central theme here of keeping all of your data and all of your data points decentralized. So not putting all of your eggs in one basket, not giving Google all of your passwords or giving Apple all of your passwords and all of your logins and all of everything. You don't want to do that because then you have one central point of failure, and having one point of failure means it could all come down in one fell swoop if someone just, wanted to come after you. So by decentralizing, you can really mitigate the risk of being online and having an online presence.
Okay. So, again, any questions that you've got, chat, put them on in here. We're getting real close to the wrap up here. So if there's anything, or if you posted a question, Oh, what the biometric lock? A biometric lock is going to be a thumbprint.
Yeah.
Is that always the case? I mean, it could be
That,
like a handprint if you're getting into Area
yeah.
51.
Yeah, and I've seen some where it's like a full iris like scan, and that's usually you won't need that for most people, but if that's an option for you, you should go for that too.
Okay, so biometric locks or thumbprints, we like those. Those are good. If you had to tell everyone watching this workshop the first, let's keep it brief. We'll say the first two things that you should go do of all the things we talked about: browsers, password authenticators, VPN.
Yeah.
What are the first two or three things that you say go do this next, like by next week? What are your top priorities?
Yeah, I would definitely recommend changing your browser right away, because the browser is your gateway to the internet. You need to change how you access the internet. And by decentralizing, that's right, by decentralizing everything, you keep your life in a constant state of flux, so you don't have one point of failure. So I recommend the Vivaldi browser because it works and behaves just like Chrome, without all the nasty bits that Chrome has. And then the Bitwarden Password Manager is great. And if you ever want to pay for the premium version of Bitwarden, it is $10 for a year, one whole year, which I think LastPass is like $36 for the whole year. So Bitwarden is by far the cheapest. And if you pay for it, you can host it yourself at your house, which is a whole other topic. But you can host your own password.
Which I'm
manager.
sure
I
you
know.
do, don't you?
I'm trying to. It's quite the challenge.
That's awesome.
But then definitely the last bit, once you get the Vivaldi browser and the Bitwarden Password Manager, is getting the Authenticator, Authy by Twilio, to keep yourself even more safe. And as most of you have seen, if you use Authy, Twitch, I think Twitch has an exclusive deal with Authy. So if you have Authy, you get a 7-digit code instead of a 6-digit code. And so when you try to log in to Twitch, you actually get a little notification if you have Authy on your phone. And it gives you the 7-digit code, and you have like 20 seconds until that code is invalid. And then you have to reauthorize the login process with Twitch again. So Twitch and Authy are a great combination.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so you're saying browser first, or browser, password manager, and the authenticator. And you're saying that's Vivaldi, that's Bitwarden, and that's Authy.
Yeah,
and
if you I was just saying,
get the basic services for all those for free.
Oh yeah, and since those are all free, I highly recommend getting a paid VPN, because if you don't, you're really risking your ISP getting even more information on you and selling more information on you. And I like to treat all of you as people, not as money data points. And unfortunately, that's not how ISPs treat you. So you really need a paid VPN to keep your life even more secure, even at your own house.
And as we talk about that, like we've said before, we are sponsored today by Surfshark. Again, we posted the link in the chat. 83% off, 3 free months. It's an amazing deal. I highly suggest, if you're looking for a VPN, to look at this one. And as to Sager's point, when it comes to VPNs, it's like they say for everything, and it's just like applies to Google Chrome. A lot of times, I won't say every time, but a lot of times, if a service is free, you're the product. Keep that in mind for things like VPN. If what you're trying to pay for is privacy, the last thing you want to do is give your privacy to someone who's selling your privacy to stay afloat. So again, we love Surfshark VPN. Sager and I both use it a ton. Any last bits of information, or do you want to go ahead and do your outro here, Sager? It's been amazing learning from you tonight, honestly.
Yeah, I would just say VPNs and all of these services, it all sounds very confusing, but if you dive into what each company does and what their motto, what their goal is, most of them are just trying to keep you, the end user, safe. That's all they want. And that's why I only recommend companies that try to keep you safe. I don't try to recommend companies that try to make money off of you, or they're still insecure, like LastPass. You really got to keep all of your services in one nice, neat little portfolio that you would have, like on your desktop or something, just to take some notes when you go to different websites, like as Wes posted there about Vivaldi and Bitwarden and Authy, and also Surfshark. Like having all these services means that you're one extra layer secure, and you want to be as secure as possible, especially on the internet, especially if you're streaming and you're trying to make this a way of living or your way of income.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's that much more important to a streamer. When you live online and you make your money online, it's not just a big inconvenience. It's a loss of potentially weeks of income. And that's if you can even recover everything. It could be devastating for a content creator. So again, thank you so much for coming on, SagerRage. I posted your wonderful command in chat, but the bottom line of that command is you're probably not going to find Sager online.
Yeah. If you want to contact me, I'm on Discord and Twitch. So that's it.
Which, is great. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's really all you need nowadays, especially if you're trying to stay, low key like I am.
Yeah. Yep. I've been Wes Sisa. This has been another workshop from Streamer Square. We do these every Wednesday at the same time. That's 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is going to be, I believe, our last show for the week, but we've got a lot of shows coming up next week as well. We have shows on Monday. We've got shows on Tuesday, and then we've got 3 shows on Wednesdays. The best place to find out what's going on with Streamer Square is probably going to be the Discord. The second best place is probably going to be keeping an eye on their Twitter. Hopefully we can get those linked in chat, and y'all can check those out as well. If not, I'll link them here in a minute. Again, thanks so much for hanging out, learning about cybersecurity, how to protect yourself as a streamer or as a non-streamer. I think a lot of this info is really useful for a lot of people out there. Yeah. So again, thanks for hanging out. Thanks again, Sager. And thanks. And y'all have a great night. And we'll see you next week at the Monday Streamer Square shows. That'll be Stream Scene at 5 p.m. EST. Thanks, y'all. Have a good one.
Bye.